Can I just ask, how many of you are undergrads? Most of you. Any postgrads in the house? Yeah, a couple of postgrads, masters or PhDs? PhD? PhD, you poor buggers. Good luck with that. Of the undergrads, how many of you are thinking about going on to postgrad? Yeah, quite a few of you. Okay, I'm guessing that most of you are here because maybe you haven't really decided about teaching, but you're thinking, I really love ancient history, I really love classics, but I'm not sure what on earth I'm going to do at the end of it. And that was pretty much my story. I was a PhD student here under the wonderful watch of Catherine and Peter Brennan. I finished my PhD in 2007. Catherine very kindly lined up some teaching for me here at Sydney Uni in second semester. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do in first semester? And I was lucky enough to fall into, like Diane as well, a maternity, sorry, not Diane, like Caroline as well, maternity leave position. That teacher very fortunately extended her maternity leave and extended her maternity leave and then got pregnant again and extended that maternity leave, and hey, I was left standing. So I was very lucky. Despite the PhD in ancient history, it's not the ancient history that got me the job, it was the Latin. So think about that. Think about that, ancient historians. While you might have first year Latin or first year Greek, just enough to get you through the research, I would suggest going on and doing a second and third year if you haven't already done it, because there are jobs out there and we are as rare as hen's teeth. People want us. I don't really know why sometimes, but they do. They want Latin teachers, they do want ancient Greek teachers, they want Latin and ancient Greek tutors for their students, for their daughters and their sons. You are in demand, you will find a job somewhere. To begin with, it might be a part-time maternity leave cover, hopefully it will turn into something more permanent. It's about getting your foot in the door, I suspect, a lot of the time. It's about making contacts. So you'll join the Classical Languages Teachers Association of New South Wales. You'll get the emails and you'll find out where the jobs are advertised. You'll talk to other nerdy people who are Latin teachers who will say, oh yes, yes, I have a really difficult student, they need a tutor. Oh yes, I've heard about this position coming up. Or I've heard about, and this is increasingly happening, a primary school that is looking for a way to extend gifted and talented students. Enter Minimus the mouse. You laugh, but again, there is a demand for him out there. Teaching history, teaching ancient history in particular, teaching Latin and Greek is rewarding. I'm not going to speak about that anymore. I think these guys already have you convinced, if you weren't convinced by your own experiences already. It is true, I think, and I think my colleagues would agree, that it's impossible to have a bad day. You might have a bad lesson, you might have an awkward and embarrassing moment, you won't have a bad day. Because kids, as difficult as they are, despite the throwing of chairs and the driving you crazy, are on the whole pretty awesome. And they spot phonies when they see them. You're not phonies. I can speak to you as kindred spirits. We're all nerds. We love what we do. They will see that and they will appreciate that. And that's what will make you value to them, to your employers, and to their parents. If I'm honest, if you're thinking about teaching Latin or Greek, or even if you're not thinking about teaching Latin or Greek, but you realise it might be a possibility, you will end up in either an independent school or a selective public high school, because those are the only schools that I know of in which Latin and Greek are still taught in New South Wales, which means you probably won't see as many chairs sailing through the air. That's not to say that your students won't have issues. There'll be issues of a different kind. They will struggle. There will be times where they burst into tears in your class and you won't know why. Quite often, if you teach at my school, they will tell you in detail why it is they burst into tears, because we're reading Catullus 8 and I just broke up with my boyfriend, is what will happen. Sometimes they'll be trivial like that. Sometimes it will be issues that are a lot worse and you don't want to know about and you might not need to know about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're teaching your students, not your subject. And I think that's one of the big differences that a friend of mine pointed out to me between teaching at university and teaching at a high school, that you are teaching your students, not the subject. And that's the thing that makes it so rewarding, because you do develop those relationships and it's a thing that allows you to have more fun. Yes, you're bound by a syllabus. Yes, you might be bound by school rules, but even in those posh independent schools, People still value what you do. They value what you can give them that is born out of your passion and your sense of love for what you do. You can be selfish about your job. In some ways, I think teaching is a little bit selfish, because as much as you are giving to your students and for the long hours that you work, you get an awful lot back. And it might just be that "thank you, miss," at the end of the lesson. It might be the great big hug from the kid who's driven you mad for 6 years, but at the end of year 12, she comes up to you and says, "I've really appreciated the fact that you didn't give up on me when a lot of other people did." Whatever it is, you do build those relationships. I wasn't going to talk about being valued. That wasn't going to talk about at all. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Talking about independent schools, that's where you probably will get your job. How do you make yourself valuable to employers? I would suggest to you that postgrad is going to do it. Employers at independent schools will value a master's. They will certainly value a PhD. That's not to say they won't value a BA with honours. Of course they will, but they will look very favourably on postgraduate work. They will look very favourably on research. They realise that the teaching of subjects like Latin and Greek lend a certain degree of kudos to their school. There is a certain degree of status that goes with those sorts of subjects, so they will look very favourably on postgrad work. So undergrads in the room, do think about postgrad before thinking about teaching. If you can, on a bit of a very practical note, if you can get the dip ed out of the way as fast as possible, get it out of the way as fast as possible. I started teaching at a high school and then did the dip ed part-time by correspondence, and I would have to say it was a practical experience of teaching in the classroom, which will teach you more about teaching than actually trying to do a dip ed. And yeah, colleagues are nodding. And it's not to say that departments or faculties of education and universities are not helpful. They are helpful, and they certainly do their best to be helpful. But a lot of the time, there's a lot of bureaucracy associated with education, so there's a lot of box ticking, which you will go through, but get the dip ed out of the way as soon as you can. Get into the classroom and you'll love it all the more. Your first year will probably be one of the most difficult years of your life. Again, PhD students, I'm really sorry about that, because you probably think, yay, I finished the PhD, relaxing year. I can leave the job behind at 5 o'clock and knock off and go home. Your first year won't be like that, but my goodness, it will be one of the best things that you've ever done. It really is a fantastic job. And it really is something that you won't want to walk away from. We talk about high burnout rates for teachers, but I don't think that's the same for classicists or ancient historians. We're just tougher than other teachers. And we love what we do more than other teachers, I think. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, I've babbled for long enough. Thank you very much. Good luck with integrating social reaction.